Okay, this is a quick video on masking in Substance Painter for a mutiUdimm workflow. We're going to look at two techniques for masking. These are not the only ones, but these are great ones that I use all the time. We're going to look at how to control your masks. One of the most important things in understanding masking is what's going on. So a mask is a black and white grayscale image, and black is 0 luminance and white is 1 luminance. These are the values in the mask or alpha channel, and it's multiplied by the color channels, the RGB. And the result of that multiplication is the color that you end up seeing after masking. So we're going to look at the polygon fill tool and how to paint white into a black mask to reveal and conceal colors in Substance Painter. So here I am in Substance. I'm going to create a new project, select my object, and open it up. Switch it to Maya settings. Now, for mutiUdimm workflows, you have to have the Use UV tile checked on. And then we hit OK. There's my room. Yay. I quickly go to my texture set settings. Bake mesh maps. I'm just going to quickly bake them, not go through the settings. I do that in other videos. This is just about quickly masking. I'll fast forward through this. Okay, as soon as it's done, I return to painting mode. Let's look at the UVs for the room. Here I have 2 pieces of floor and then 3 more UV tiles for the walls, interior and exterior. Now I'm going to come back to layers and just add a new fill layer. Alt-click on color to isolate the color. And let's make it red. Why not? Beautiful. Red room. But you can see it's all over everything. Now, of course, I want the floor to be a different color. I'm going to want the floor to be green. Why not? So alt-click on color to isolate color. Come down to color. Grab green. And now I've got an entirely green room. But I want only the floors to be green and the walls to be red. So I need to mask out most of the green. So I right-click on the green layer, and I'm going to add a black mask. So I've just multiplied all of that green layer by 0 luminance in the alpha channel, the mask. Now to bring it back, I need to multiply certain areas by 1. White is 100% luminance 1, so I multiply it by 1. And to do that in certain areas, to control the areas I do that, I'm going to come over here to the polygon fill tool. Now the polygon fill tool by default is set to white. You can switch that if you're using a white mask, bring it down to black, but we're going to keep it on white for now. And there's these 4 options. Triangle is the least useful. You can see where your quads are, and it will subdivide it into triangles. Quads, you can do it by quad. Sometimes I do that, very rarely, because I don't generally model my quads so perfectly that they're going to line up exactly how I want my textures to lay out. So then let's look at this option, full object. Very useful if you have a room, say with a staircase, and you make the railing one object and the stairs another object, and they're going to be separate textures. That becomes very useful. But in this case, I'm going to use the UV tile option. Let's undo to get rid of that last one. And now, when I come to my UVs, there's the bay window UVs. I can click on that, and everything in that UV island or tile is going to, or not tile, sorry, everything in that UV island is now green. And I can continue around. Oop, that was an outdoor wall. I can continue around There's going to be another part of my bay window. I can continue trying to remember exactly how I laid out my UVs, or I can also click on the model and I know my UVs are there. Nicely done. Oops, except I said I wanted my floor to be green. So click on the floor and there's my green floor. So that's the polyfill tool. And I like to use it with the UV settings like that. So now maybe I want to add some schmutz, some grime, and I'm going to make it yellow. So I'll add another fill. You can see it turns the whole thing white. Alt click on color, change my color, and I alt click on color just to isolate it. So I'm only adding color. I'm not adding height or normals or anything like that. So there it is. Everything's yellow. Right click, add a black mask, and now I'm going to use the brush tool. And the brush by default is going to be white, so I can paint all kinds of fun things, squiggles, whatever, in the mask. And if I make an error, I can hit X, which will change my brush to black, just like in Photoshop, and I can paint it out. So that's very useful. And I use this technique in Photoshop as well all the time for painting masks. But let's get a little more interesting with this. I'm going to drop my flow way down, drop my opacity way down, and you can see, hit X to bring it back to white, and you can see now I'm getting a much fainter thing, a much fainter color reveal. So then I can come over to my brush settings and change my alpha. There we go, alpha. Click on the alpha and maybe I'll paint a dirt brush in. Paint with a dirt brush. And I'll come around the window and just tapping in a light layer around the window. I want some at the top, but I'll make the brush smaller for that. Dust tint. But as it does that, it gets a little thicker, so I'll cut the flow in half and the stroke down. Now you can see I'm getting just a little bit more lightness up in that. Bring it back up for this side of the wall. Whoa, that was way too much for this eyes. Oh, and like in Photoshop, the bracket keys work to adjust the size of the brush. And rather than just drag it, I'm going to lightly tap. And I don't have quite the same setting there, but you can see how I'm now getting this kind of grimy layer. I'm going to make the brush really big and bring my flow way back down, opacity down, and just kind of, like maybe there's some leaks from the walls if I were doing a different color. Yellow's leaking down from the upstairs. The colors here obviously not important. It's just these two concepts of masking with the polygon fill tool, or being able to create your black mask, use the paintbrush to paint white into the black mask to reveal the color, and then playing around with different alphas to get different looks. So I can go from something pretty solid to this kind of grainy, grimy look. And that is the masking approach that I use for creating different looks in my mutiUdimm Substance Painter project. Enjoy.